Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Esteem Goddess of. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a demonic dominatrix in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Get Esteem Goddess of in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Last weekend, actress Alyssa Milano proposed that women across America go on a sex strike because the state of Georgia has recently passed a heartbeat bill restricting abortions in the state of Georgia, and as Alyssa Milano believes, restricting a woman's so-called right to choose. Now, when I listen to your Alyssa Milano, I see someone who clearly does not understand the laws of this country and someone who does not understand the process of government. Now, this so-called controversial heartbeat bill, this law was written not by three men trying to control women's reproductive rights, but it was written by three women. And as this law, which was proposed and written by those three women, was sent into the legislature, I'm sure there were multiple women who had opportunities to speak against this bill and opportunities to vote against this bill. However, it seems like all of those women in that process, they seem to be silent in the eyes of Alyssa Milano. But when I take a critical look at Georgia's legal system, which mirrors our own federal system, they all had an opportunity to have a say on it, because in the United States and every state in the United States, we all have state legislatures where people can choose to vote on a law, and people have a choice to call their representatives and tell them how they want them to vote on a law. But your Alyssa Milano believes that because this process did not give her the outcome as related to the law that she wanted to have in her home state of California, she proposes a nationwide sex strike for all of the United States. And how is this so-called sex strike supposed to lead to the repealing of a law in the state of Georgia? That's a question I would like to propose to your Alyssa Milano. So you're going to propose a nationwide sex strike, and because she believes that men only use women for sex, that they will go out of their way to beg these women to get sex in order to get this legislation repealed. Again, showing how completely illogical this Alyssa Milano is, and how she's more caught up in her feelings regarding this law that she doesn't understand that when it comes down to what she is doing and proposing is actually proving many on the so-called pro-life's side's point regarding these abortions. If these women did not have sex with these men, then they would not get pregnant, and then they would not need any abortions. So you've pretty much, Alyssa Milano, proved the pro-life's side with this proposal, and you are actually doing everything that the pro-lifers want you to do. Now, when it comes down to your Alyssa Milano, she is proposing this whole sex strike, thinking that women can use sex to control men. Again, proving how deeply dysfunctional your Alyssa Milano is, and how she is literally buying into the arguments of what many sexist men have. Because when it comes down to your sexist man, he believes that a woman is only good for sex and only good to be used for sex. So she is out here and trying to play the feminist role and proving many of the TradCon ideas to be absolutely true with this ridiculous sex strike proposal. And she's minimizing the value of a woman all the way down to sex, because that's pretty much all she has to offer is sex. And at this point in her life, where she's getting to be near menopause, because your Alyssa Milano is 46 years old, what she wants to do is try to destroy other women's chances of having relationships by talking about this silly sex strike proposal, because she can't get any access to those men. Because when it comes down to Alyssa Milano, she had no problem going out here and having sex with lots of men over the course of the last 20-25 years. And because she can't get any more, what she wants to do is propose this and then use the whole guise of this abortion law as a way to try to manipulate people into believing she cares about their cause, when in actuality, what we have here is another one of these washed up old females trying to reinvent herself with the guise of feminism, making herself out to be this feminist activist in order to get attention in the media. And as she's trying to get this attention in the media for herself, what she's doing is making women believe that she is fighting for their cause, when in actuality she's fighting for her own interests and trying to get attention for herself. Because we all know that when it comes down to this whole sex strike proposal, it's not going to have any sort of impact on the Georgia legislature, and it's not going to have any sort of impact because most women aren't going to participate in this silly strike. Because when it comes down to most women, they understand that you don't get legislation changed in a way like this by proposing a strike against men, when women, again, participated in the creation of this legislation. Now, when I listen to your Alyssa Milano's arguments on abortion, they are completely ridiculous. She's talking about how this is going to restrict a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body, when women have numerous things that they can use and numerous options to avoid getting pregnant or to terminate a pregnancy outside of an abortion. So I guess your Alyssa Milano has never heard of the morning after pill RU486, which is available over the counter at every drugstore, and you could probably get one for free at many of those Planned Parenthood clinics that are all across this country where these women go. Nor has she heard of things like your condoms, your IUDs, or other devices that a woman can choose to use to prevent a pregnancy. And I guess your Alyssa Milano has never heard of a concept that the Apostle Paul proposed in the Bible in the 6th chapter of Corinthians, called abstinence. And it seems like every one of these feminists, they seem to love avoiding that chapter in the Corinthians, because this is the God standard established for women to follow, and it ultimately shows you how the woman's so-called right to choose is a logical fallacy. Now, many of these women, like your Alyssa Milano, they love to sit there and talk about how it's their body and their choice. But when I look at my Bible, it says that our bodies belong to the living God, and as creations of God, they are supposed to be temples of the Holy Spirit. But because your feminist doesn't want to be responsible for her own body, what she wants to do is be accountable to the living God. She wants to say it's her body and her choice, but then she doesn't want to take responsibility or accountability to the living God. So what she wants to do is talk about how it's her body and her choice. However, it seems like she doesn't want to choose to follow the living God, who told her to abstain from fornication. Now, as I see it, it's not the issue of abortion and women having a so-called legal right to an abortion that's the issue. The real issue is women going out here and participating in acts of fornication, because it's those acts of fornication with these dusty, broke losers that these women get involved with that lead to them having these unwanted pregnancies. And it's these unwanted pregnancies as a result of casual sexual encounters that lead to these women thinking about options for terminating a pregnancy. So for me, when I listen to your Alyssa Milano and I listen to her ridiculous arguments, the whole problem with her argument about a sex strike is not about stopping abortions, because abortions are a symptom of the issue of fornication. So when I listen to your Alyssa Milano, she's sitting there trying to avoid accountability to the living God, and she's trying to steer women towards this ridiculous argument talking about how we're going to have a sex strike to make men change a law. And that's not going to work, because it wasn't just men who created that law. It was women who wrote that law. It was women who went along with voting for that law in the legislature. And it was women who helped get that law passed in the state of Georgia. And again, how does a national so-called sex strike get a piece of legislation changed in a state where it is mostly a conservative state? So how is that going to change anything? And this is something, again, that your Alyssa Milano is not really understanding about the laws of this land, the due process of this land, or the logic as related to due process, because she's more caught up in feelings about women's so-called right to choose, when it's clear that the women in that state made a choice, and if they don't like the choices made in that state, they can go move to the state of California, where they can go get all the legal abortions they want and have all the unprotected sex that they want with those same types of grimy guys that most of these women have. Because when it comes down to the American woman, the woman has had a right to choose for over 50 years, and they've made choices with their own bodies over the last 50 years, and those choices they have made have led to them winding up thinking that this is an argument about abortion, when the actual argument, it should be about fornication, and it should be about these women going out here and having all of this sex on the cock carousel. Because when it comes down to the average American woman has had over 80 sexual partners by the time she is 30 years old, and these women are oftentimes having sex as young as 11 and 12 years old, and they have gone through so many men that they think that they are making these choices with their bodies. And the big problem is they make these bad choices with their bodies because they are completely uneducated in sex education, basically because of American sexual shame, and they're also completely miseducated sexually as related to what God's standard is for a woman, and a standard for what God's standard is as related to sex. Because when it comes down to the living God, his standard for sex is that an act of fornication is a sin, and when a woman goes out here to lay down with a man outside of a marriage, it is considered a sinful union. And just like Paul said in the Corinthians, when it comes down to a man and a woman lying together like that, it's like a man lying with a harlot. And many of these women, they are actually putting themselves on the road to harlotry when they go out here and they follow women like Alyssa Milano, believing that a woman has a right to choose whatever she wants to do with her own body, when in actuality, your bodies are creations of the living God and temples of the Holy Spirit, are supposed to be temples of the Holy Spirit, and you defile that temple by lying down with these men out here, and to abuse your body with mankind the way many of these American women are doing. This is why so many women are deeply troubled. And again, they talk about my body, my choice, when in actuality, it's all about the bad choices that they continue to make. And they want to sit there and talk about how they want to have this right to do whatever they want with their body. However, it seems like when it's time to take responsibility over their bodies and doing things like following the living God, that's when we have issues with your Alyssa Milano and the women who follow her in that feminist rhetoric. They sit there and talk about my body, my choice, but then they refuse to follow the living God. They refuse to submit to the order of the living God, and they refuse to submit to the leadership and the authority of the living God, because they believe that they have these choices when the ultimate choice they have is either to choose to follow the living God or to go and choose to follow the devil. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and Smith Storella trilogy, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.